Hi class, in this next short video I will be trying to give you some introductory information about programming language. I know you know already about programming language, and there is no need actually to give you a detailed information. But first, what is programming language? And a programming language is actually a set of rules that provides a way of telling computer what operation to perform, and to link practically the human interest with the machine or with the hardware. And it's also a set of rules for communicating some algorithms or principles. It also provides a logistic framework for describing some compositions based on the interest of the programmer. As per the definition from some literature, a programming language is a national system for describing computation in a machine-readable and human-readable form, and this is one where we can actually try to have as a definition. We can also say that a programming language is a tool for developing executable model for a class of problem domains, and this can also describe what programming language is. As you know, there are some levels of programming language in general, and levels are practically assigned based on the correlation with the natural language, and the more similar to the natural language is the higher the level of the programming language. And the machine readable code is, as you know, is 0 and 1, and it can be only interpreted by the machine or by the hardware, and this is actually the lowest level what we are actually having. Low-level programming is actually a bit advanced than the machine-readable code, and it's an assembly type of code. It can be, for example, load or multiply or divide or return, a very abbreviated manner, but clearly this is a very low-level language what we are describing. The high-level language, as I said, is more related to the natural language. For example, for I, starting from 0 up to 10, do statement 1 and statement 2 might be considered as a high-level language. Based on this, all programming languages are actually categorized to be high or low. Use words, symbols, grammatical rules like natural language. These are actually the characteristics of high-level language. Grammatical rules are often referred as syntax, and each programming language has its own rule on this specifying it. And there are many programming languages, as you know, and like any human language in general. And similarly, people create programming language in their own manner. This slide is actually showing a number of programming languages existing, and the created year is also indicated. You can actually refer. And here, for example, the Pascal, somehow C, C++, and Java are introduced. And two broad group of programming languages, the sequential and object-oriented. And the first one is the sequential, and the traditional programming language are more serial type of things, and one statement will be executed, and when one statement is actually be finalized, then the next will be sequentially executed. Other one is object-oriented programming language. These are actually more popular, and every object will actually have its own solution, and based on that, creating a program will be easy. A good example of object-oriented programming language is Java or C++, but in sequential or in a very traditional programming language, Fortran, COBOL, and other special programming languages I can actually try to group them. There are language called script language, and more they will actually use some scripts and interpret it into some low-level interpretation to communicate with the hardware. It can be JavaScript, VBScript, PHP, SP, and all these things. And there are text processing language they call LaTeX and PostScript, and these are also a text processing. In a text, we are actually trying to give some code. So the third one is a markup language, and the HTML, XML, and other part of the other similar languages are grouped in this. The final one is actually the command language, and usually the shells, the different shells or the Unix shells, what we are actually known. And these are actually special programming language. Programming language architecture will be introduced regardless of what language is used. This architecture is applied, and the bottom line or the main component is the hardware, and on top of the hardware there are some machine languages existing, and on top of that there will be some assembly language located, so that they will be actually communicating through the machine language to the hardware. And on top of that, then the high-level language will be actually be located. And to do this, clearly a compiler or an interpreter is really required. And compiler or interpreter have very similar operation, but with different principles. But if you have some interest to identify what is compiler and what is interpreter, you can actually refer. And on top of that, then the different type of high-level programming language will be actually be located, and this shows actually the programming language architecture. And clearly with this video you will be actually remembering some of the basics in programming language to go forward into our specific topic. Thank you for listening.